Hello, it is I are Smart, and happy Star Wars Day. Man, it feels good. It's Star Wars Day again. And today, I decided I'm gonna rank every Star Wars movie and show. Yeah, crazy. But to be completely honest with you, I wrote this script over the last couple days, just kind of crammed it. I'm not really happy with it. I wish I would have done more, but then again, I could have gone on longer and longer, so maybe it's good I cut myself off. But like, look, I'm running out of time. Okay, I'm running out of time to get this done before Star Wars Day, so we're just doing this now. I think the script is pretty good. I wanted to have a bunch of cool edits and transitions planned. I don't think that's going to happen. It's probably just going to be me talking, and I'll occasionally put something on screen that I'm talking about. I wanted this to be well edited, but I simply don't have the time. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're just going to have to deal with it. But I am going to review every Star Wars movie and show. So look, I already got this already. We're just going to get into the script that I wrote now, okay? Okay, you get the idea of what's going on? Okay, let's go. Okay. There's a lot of media under the Star Wars name. So since today is Star Wars Day, I decided it was a good time to rank all the Star Wars movies and shows again. Or at least all the ones that are somewhat notable and only including the ones I've actually seen. I don't claim to be a film critic or an expert, but I try to look at movies and shows from multiple angles and appreciate all the parts of filmmaking that go into them. I don't have time to go over the, cinematography, writing, music, directing, acting, all that for each movie, but I did try to factor that as much as possible into my review for each ranking, and I'll bring up those points if they're relevant to my explanation. At the end of the day, this list is simply my opinion, but I tried to be as objective as possible here, not simply putting my favorites at the top and the ones I don't like at the bottom. And when I inevitably say that something you like is bad, look, that's okay, okay? People can like bad things and not like good things. That's fine. But don't start commenting about like, you didn't like, come on. Something's not good just because you enjoy it, okay? At the end of the day, everything on this list has its highs and lows, so feel free to disagree with me on things, and have friendly discussions in the comments section. Or as friendly as a comment section about Star Wars can be. Okay, let's just get started. Let's get into this. You all know what this is. Let's get started. So the number 26 spot on this list goes to The Rise of Skywalker. Look, I don't think I need to explain why this one sucks, but while it is the worst Star Wars movie, I actually do find this one still to be enjoyable to watch, at least. Which I can't say for everything else on this list. But this movie is still the worst of the franchise. I mean, it's just soulless nostalgia bait at a lot of points, incoherent plot points. It undoes the actually good things set up by the previous movie, just to try and field those plans by being like, look, we fixed the things you complained about. Don't you like us now? And no, it just pissed off more people. It didn't make them happy, and it just pissed off people who actually liked the things they did in The Last Jedi, whatever. But look, both sequel haters and sequel enjoyers agree that this movie sucks. That's like the one thing they agree on, right? The hand-shaking meme. Hating The Rise of Skywalker is the one thing they agree on. But the movie does have a few redeeming qualities, I will say. Ian McDiarmid's performance as Palpatine is obviously great. And I like that you get to see Finn, Poe, and Rey. They all go on an adventure together. They're friends. They all get to go, which wasn't in the previous movies, and I thought that was nice. So number 25, we're moving right along. The Book of Boba Fett. Look, if not for the 2 episodes where Din Djarin takes over, this would be in last place, because this show is literally just filler for The Mandalorian, alright? Just to set up its 3rd season. They threw in the story of how Boba Fett escapes the Sarlacc pit, because fans have been like, oh, I want to see Boba Fett. People have been asking for that for years, right? And it just disappointed them. So, like, what was the point? Okay, so the plot in this show revolves around Boba taking Jabba's palace, as he takes Jabba's place as a crime lord, right? But since he's the protagonist now, he just becomes a good guy? A good guy crime lord? What? Look, this could have been something on the level of the Penguin show, right? If they had actually gotten good writers, and if they had stuck to making Boba a villain. But instead, he's just a generic hero, who will inevitably show up in a big Endgame-esque fight with Thrawn in the upcoming Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Okay, number 24. The Clone Wars movie.
Sky Guy.
Yeah, I think this movie is bad. That's not a hot take, and I don't feel like I need to explain more. It's amazing that we got the Clone Wars after this mess of an animated movie that they put in theaters. It's bad, okay? It's bad. It's just bad. That's all I'll say. Number 23, Attack of the Clones. Look, people forget how terrible this movie is. Okay, I don't even know where to start. The prequels just all have bad direction overall, but this one in particular seems the worst, okay? Because all the actors deliver their poorly written lines as if the only direction George gave them was faster, more intense. Because that's what happened. Anakin and Padme fall in love just because the plot demands it, and they have absolutely no chemistry. Like, I mean, this is the movie with the I don't like sand line, guys. I know, it's the funny meme line, but it's the I don't like sand line. We're supposed to believe that makes them fall in love or something. It's the worst. It's just terrible, okay? And then look, Obi-Wan being a detective, it's kind of cool, but the whole, like, mystery he's uncovering makes no sense if you think about it for more than 5 minutes, okay? If not for some decent fights and a pretty good third act, this would be the worst mainline Star Wars movie. Okay, number 22, Resistance. That's just what it's called, Star Wars Resistance. Who are you? I barely remember anything that happened in the show, and I only watched it like a few years ago. It should be fresh in my mind, but it isn't, because it bored me to death, okay? I barely ever see anyone talk about this one. I mean, it's decent, I guess, but it doesn't do anything to elevate it to any, notability, right? The plot was about racing, I think, and then the second season, they're just running from the First Order the whole time. It's kind of like in The Last Jedi, but somehow worse. Okay, number 21 spot goes to Ahsoka. Look, this show is the definition of fan service. First of all, Ahsoka has been around for way too long and showed up in so many things. Why does she need her own show? Just because Dave Filoni loves her so much and because fans like her? Look, she literally gets no character development, and this show just exists to continue the story of Star Wars Rebels, right where that left off. I mean, like, hey, look, Sabine is back, wow, and she's a Jedi now, somehow. And Thrawn is back, yeah, but he's incompetent now for some reason, and look, Anakin is back, yay! Anakin is back, and he's like a Force ghost, maybe. Look, the only reason he's in this show is to make fans go crazy online. That's it. That's literally it. He serves no purpose in the plot. They literally only brought him in to just look cool, okay? And don't tell me there's some lesson that he teaches Ahsoka, okay? They just fight. They just fight for no reason. He's supposed to be a good guy at this point, but he pretends to be Darth Vader. They just fight. Okay, go ahead. Try and explain to me what the lesson is in the comments. Leave me a comment telling me what the lesson is that Anakin teaches Ahsoka when they're in the world between worlds. But don't even get me started how now Ahsoka gets into that. That makes no sense. Okay? But like, no, I've never heard a satisfying answer as to what the actual lesson Anakin teaches Ahsoka is. He's only there to make fans go crazy. The only reason this show isn't lower on the list is because Baylan and Shin are actually cool characters, and I want to see more of them in the future. They're actually just really cool. So they actually kind of justify the show existing. But other than that, this show sucks. Number 20 spot, Tales of the Empire. Pretty chill. This show came out a year ago, and I already forgot about it. It's not terrible, but it did not need to exist. Number 19, The Phantom Menace. In the past, I may have claimed that this is the worst Star Wars movie, but there's just a certain charm about this movie, I'll admit. It makes it rise ever so slightly above the fact that it's terrible. I don't really know how to describe it, but this is still a bad movie regardless. I mean, this movie was probably the most hyped movie of all time before it came out, and then it disappointed pretty much everyone, right? I mean, sure, the kids who grew up with it now love it, but objectively, the movie's got a lot of problems, okay? All the nonsense on Tatooine where the Jedi need to rig a pod race to get money, and then Anakin, they just take him because he's the chosen one. Don't even get me started on that. And there's just a lot of talking scenes, and they're not really that deep. People are like, oh, the politics, and so late. It's really not that deep. It really isn't. It's just, it tries to act like this, but it isn't, okay? The only reason this movie isn't lower is because Duel of the Fates is freaking awesome. Number 18, The Acolyte. Look, I pushed this show out of my memory because of how annoying the fan base was when the show was coming out. They like, every week, it was complaining about every tiny little detail, just because the creators of the show were woke or something. Ugh. I mean, to be honest, this show had some cool ideas going on, and some really, really great fights. That's the thing I don't see people talk about enough. Really great fights in this show. But it just didn't stand out enough to give it a dedicated group of fans to defend it from all people being like, the woke mob is running Disney, and they made this woke show, it's so bad. Those fans just got to run amok and ruin this for everybody. So yeah, this show's gonna be forgotten, but that's really not that much of a tragedy. Number 17, Tales of the Jedi. You disappoint me. Yeah, so half of this show is just more Ahsoka lore slop. Like, do we really need to see when Ahsoka was a baby and her mom went hunting or whatever? Like, and anyway, the actually cool parts of this show are the bits of backstory for Count Dooku, which I think added a lot of great characterization to him. So this show's just a bit of a mixed bag, and I can't even call it a show. They're like, each of these are like 10-minute long episodes, and there's like 6 of them. It's like an hour of content. I don't know. So we'll see if Tales of the Underworld is any better, but I doubt it. Number 16, ObiWan Kenobi. Hello there. I think people hate on this show too much, but it's clear this was meant to be a movie, all right? There's some cool stuff, like seeing Fortress Inquisitorius, and a really nice final fight, with Obi-Wan and Vader, and a particularly well-done final scene where Obi-Wan realizes that Anakin is truly gone. I really love that scene. But everything in the middle, like with the Rebels and Leia, like young Leia, it's just strange. Felt very drawn out. I think the great thing about this show is how it bridges prequel and original trilogy Obi-Wan, and it just makes a transition from Obi-Wan into Ben Kenobi. It makes it make more sense, I think, at least. So it's not nearly as bad as some people say it is, but it could have been so much better, especially if it didn't have all that shaky cam. Number 15, The Bad Batch. This show is basically just more seasons of Clone Wars, but with new clone characters. And they're actually pretty good, I do like the characters. But this show just has a ton of filler, and just some meh episodes, so the ones that are actually good just don't really get a chance to shine. And while the end of Season 2 was excellent and heartbreaking, the final season was just disappointing and kind of lackluster, so it's just kind of underwhelming as a whole, but it's an alright show. Number 14, Star Wars Rebels. This show is beloved by many fans, and while I personally don't like it, I recognize why people like it so much. The characters are overall pretty great, and well developed as the show goes on, and Thrawn is a great villain. I mean, unlike how he is in Ahsoka, he's actually like calculating and cool in this show. But the ways that this show is kid-oriented, I think just holds it back, especially when you compare it to Andor, which just is also about the birth of the rebellion, but it's actually mature and does it so much better, man. Like in Rebels, right? A kid will just like throw a rock at a stormtrooper and they'll be like, ow, ah, hey, stop that kid, and then they'll run after him, and then like that crazy droid will blow them up, and it's just like, okay, it's just goofy antics. Right? Whereas like in Andor, if a kid threw a rock at a stormtrooper, he would die. He would get blasted, and that one would be like super dark, right? Rebels does have some heavier moments and emotional character deaths, but it's just overall outclassed in pretty much every aspect by Andor. So yeah, Rebels is here on the list, and you'll see where Andor ends up. Okay, number 13, The Last Jedi. Look, this movie is either you love it or hate it, so that's why I'm putting it dead in the middle of the list, to piss off as many people as possible. The movie is simultaneously some of the best and some of the worst of Star Wars, and it vexes me to this day. I've been all over the place with my opinion on this movie over the years. I mean, when I left the theater in 2017, I didn't even know how to process it, and then I saw people online explain how every single detail in this movie is terrible, so I hated it for a while, and then years later I watched it again with a new perspective, and I actually kind of liked it. And then I found people explain online why it's actually pretty good, and I loved it for a while, and now I just think it's both great and terrible at the same time. I mean, genuinely, I could talk about this phenomenon for so much longer, but let's just move on. Number 12, The Force Awakens. Look, this movie is just safe, and that's why it's in the middle, but for completely different reasons than The Last Jedi. So, The Force Awakens was designed to be safe, and essentially a remake of A New Hope to try to appeal as many people as possible, whereas The Last Jedi tried to be crazy and subversive and all these things, but not everything landed. A lot of people say that The Force Awakens just copies the original Star Wars, but I don't think that's the point. It hits a lot of the same story beats, which gives it a familiar and nostalgic sort of feeling, but I just wish the movie did more to make it stand out on its own. Overall, I'd say this one's a little underrated just because people tend to hate on the sequels as a whole, so they forget that this one's a pretty alright movie. Number 11, Skeleton Crew. Like, this show came out recently and it's already been kind of forgotten. That's not necessarily this show's fault, but it didn't do anything so well that it stood out. But I do recognize that this show was beloved by many families with kids, which was the goal. And that's why it's so high on the list, because it's not for everyone, but it fills its purpose well. Alright, we've made it to the top 10, with number 10, Solo: A Star Wars Story. I personally think this movie is underrated, but it does have its fair share of problems. At the end of the day, it is a very entertaining adventure though, that unfortunately got boycotted because fans were just pissy at The Last Jedi. It's still crazy to me how they released Last Jedi and then like a couple months later we got Solo. But anyway, this movie didn't really need to exist, but I still think it's better than a lot of other Star Wars projects. I mean, Alden Ehrenreich is great as Han, and Donald Glover as Lando was just brilliant. You got Emilia Clarke, Paul Bettany, Woody Harrelson, and there's just so many good actors in this movie. And they play some great characters too. I don't know, maybe this is just personal bias showing through too much, and maybe it should be lower, but whatever, it's my list. I'll do what I want with it. Number 9, The Mandalorian. This is the way. This show has a great first season. Honestly, if it was only one season, it would probably be in the top 5. And while season 2 just isn't as good as the first one, because it relies a lot more on, oh, look, it's this character you like. But I often find that, like, it makes sense. Whereas, like, season 3 is just garbage. It sucks. Okay, it drags the whole show down a few ranks, seriously. But Din Djarin is a cool addition to Star Wars, even though Grogu is just there for merch sales. Number 8, Revenge of the Sith. Okay, This is a weird case because while this is the best movie in the prequel trilogy, it is still a prequel movie and suffers from many of the same problems as the previous two. Bottom line, this isn't a good movie, but it is still very much a Star Wars movie. And I would go as far as to say it is the most Star Wars movie. It's got the most fights, the most goofy meme dialogue, the most intense music. It's got everything. And I think that's why so many fans love it so much. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of this movie is just kind of boring at parts, and many story elements are just nonsensical. However, I do think the movie is better because of all the additional material that has come out since the Clone Wars. I mean, for example, Order 66 as a scene, right? You don't really care, like, when it came out, because it's like, okay, all these background Jedi are dying, I guess that's sad. But like, when you watch the Clone Wars, you learn more about these characters, and so you're actually kind of sad, like, oh no, the clones are killing a Jedi who they actually care about, they're being forced to kill them. You see, so the additional material makes Revenge of the Sith better, which is kind of a weird phenomenon that I don't think you have with many other Star Wars movies. So yeah, Revenge of the Sith is a bad movie, but it's a good Star Wars. Number 7, Clone Wars.
The Clone Wars?
Alright, so there are 7 seasons of this show, which isn't the reason it's ranked number 7, but it just makes it kind of tough to rank because it's like, there's 7 seasons of this show, man, and I gotta try and do it as a whole. Like, I don't know. Overall, this show is just super overrated, I think, but it is good, alright? But the problem is just people forget how bad those first couple seasons are, and I mean, even as the show goes on, there's a lot of weak episodes, and even some weak arcs, even like in the later part, right? But the good episodes and the good arcs are what makes this show so beloved, right? And while I don't really consider it a favorite of mine, I'm not even a big fan of Clone Wars, I recognize that it is really great at times, and it's just a nice addition to Star Wars as a whole. And like I said, it makes Revenge of the Sith better, so that gives it some, gives it some extra points. Number 6, Rogue One. Now Rogue One is a movie that doesn't need to exist, but it's very good, alright? It's crazy. This movie is about the rebels stealing the plans of the Death Star. That's literally just based on a line in the opening crawl of A New Hope, right? And it is somehow the best war movie in all of Star Wars. It's not perfect, and there are some plot holes, and you can tell the movie went through rewrites and reshoots, but the final product is very good. Characters are kind of forgettable. I will admit that's probably the biggest criticism I see of it. Like, the characters are kind of forgettable, but I mean, hey, we got Andor because of this show, so that also gives it some points. Okay, number 5. None of you are going to see this coming. Star Wars Visions.
I love anime.
Maybe this is too high on the list, but I just want to draw more attention to Star Wars Visions because it's basically a bunch of non-canon animated short films ranging from, yeah, this could be in Star Wars, to just ridiculous fan fiction nonsense. But it's all pretty good, I think. There's a lot of anime, especially in the first season, and I'm not really big in anime. I don't know how, I can't really speak to that very much, but they're quality animations, and Season 2 has a greater variety from studios all around the world. Like, I mean, they got the people behind Wallace and Gromit to do one, and it's really funny. So this is just exactly what I want more of in Star Wars. It's a variety of creative ideas. So I highly recommend this one. Alright, number 4, A New Hope. I mean, what do I even say about the original Star Wars? It's the original. I mean, I've said this before that it's my favorite one, but it isn't top of the list because of the fact that I think this movie is just kind of simple. I personally really like that. I think that makes it a very great movie. But everything that's above this on the list stands out more for one reason or other. But I still think this is one of the most iconic movies of all time, and it should be recognized as such. Number 3, Return of the Jedi. Alright, we're in the top 3 now, so you can probably guess what the top 2 are. But this movie is great, man. I mean, it would probably be the best if not for the fact that the first half of the movie is pretty meh. I could really care less about the convoluted plan to save Han and all the Ewok stuff. But the final battle with the Rebels versus the Empire is, of course it's good. I mean, and the Emperor, and Luke, and Vader, it's, gold. Actually so good, alright? Like, seriously, the final moment where Luke casts away his lightsaber and declares himself a Jedi like his father before him, it may be the pinnacle of Star Wars as a whole. But I would say that the final 2 entries on this list are just better as a whole. Number 2, Andor. Okay, yeah, okay. I know I always talk about how this show is peak, but that's because it is, okay? Honestly, Andor is too good for Star Wars, right? This is the franchise with wacky force powers and lasers and stuff. We don't deserve a detailed exploration of a fascist regime being undermined by a secret network of rebels with intrigue and espionage, right? Like, other big words to try and capture how incredible this work of art is. Seriously, like, I can only really judge it on a season and a half because, I mean, like, Season 2 is still coming out at this point, but I think it's fair to say that this is the critically best Star Wars, right? It's not the number 1, though, because that spot can only be held by one thing. The holiday special. Just kidding. Look, this is an honorable mention because the holiday special and the Ewok movies probably shouldn't even be considered on this list, but they're so bad, it's just incredible, okay? All three of these movies are worse than everything else at the bottom, right? Everything at the bottom of this list, this is where they would go, right? But the thing is, they got a certain charm. There's something special about them. They're so bad, they're a bit charming. I still think the holiday special, no one should have to watch. You should not have to endure it. But there's something special about it, man. So we have to keep bringing it up. We have to keep mentioning and reminding people that it exists, because it is terrible. And the Ewok movies are just weird. So yeah, this is the honorable mention before I talk about the #1 best Star Wars thing, which you probably already figured out. #1, The Empire Strikes Back. No. Yeah, pretty much everyone knows this is the best, so I don't feel the need to explain too deeply, but the reason it's #1 on my list comes down to a very specific reason. Star Wars as a franchise would not be where it is today if this movie wasn't amazing. Because while Star Wars was a huge success, its sequel needed to excel to turn this into a franchise. If this movie was bad or even just okay, Star Wars would have probably never been more than a trilogy, maybe getting a reboot years later. But because Empire Strikes Back is Empire frickin' Strikes Back, this franchise is as massive and successful as it is. It's just iconic. Even more so than A New Hope, because of the fact that this movie took a dark turn and ended on a more somber note. And like, you following up from, A New Hope, which has such a happy ending, it was crazy. And obviously, this movie has the most well-known plot twist of all time. And it's been referenced like thousands of times in other media and pop culture. Like, I mean, come on. It's The Empire Strikes Back. What else do I have to say? So that's it. Maybe in a year or even a few months, I'll look back on this list and want to reorder some things. But I think this is a fair ranking. To be honest, I really only like the top 6 things on here, save for a few oddballs scattered through the list. Honestly, I think that says a lot about Star Wars. But really, that's the great thing about it. Like, we can talk all day about what's best and, what sucks, all that, and maybe come to some sort of consensus on that list. But at the end of the day, different things appeal to different people. What I like is different from what you like. And even if something isn't critically good, it can still be enjoyed. And I think that's just a general thing about Star Wars, or really anything. The variety of Star Wars is one of its greatest strengths, I think. So like what you like, dislike what you dislike, and remember, my opinions are always correct. Okay, but seriously, yeah, that's it. That's the list. Happy Star Wars Day again. I wanted to do something big for Star Wars Day this year. Just to do something, right? And I haven't ranked all the Star Wars movies and shows in a while. There were some new ones. I don't remember when the last time I did this was, but it's nice to do it again. And, I'll show you the tier list. Here's the tier list. I put them all in a tier list. I mean, I know I did a ranking, but, like, I thought it could fit into a tier list, too. So, I mean, you can kind of see, like, where I put them all. I think all the ones on the bottom are of, like, equal quality. That's why they're in the bottom tier. And then they all fit pretty well, I think. And then the ones at the top are, like, pretty equal in terms of quality. So, I don't know. That's just my take at the end of the day. I think it's as objective as I can possibly make it. Trying to keep my personal bias out. Like, again, if it was a favorite movie ranking of mine, I would just put A New Hope at the top. But it isn't a favorite ranking. It's a which one is best, okay? Whatever. For other thing, look at this watch. Dude, look at this freaking cool watch, all right? It's got like Vader and Luke on it. And like, look at that. Look, you see that? Focus camera? Look, the hands of the watch are the lightsabers. That's so freaking cool, dude. I spent a lot of money on this watch. And it fits really nice. It's a nice watch. I'm not sponsored, but it's a nice watch. So I'm just happy I got that. Kind of like a Star Wars Day gift, I guess, even though I got it before Star Wars Day. So, yeah, there we go. Star Wars Day gift to myself. Happy Star Wars Day. Go watch Star Wars. I'm actually going to do something very cool today. I'll probably tell you about it after. I mean, it's actually technically tomorrow because I'm recording this in the third. Whatever. This is the end of the video. Happy Star Wars Day. Bye.